Every single month, a $10 charge hits a credit card. The customer pays it automatically, even though they haven't swiped their gym tag or stepped inside the building in 8 months. It is just a tiny, forgotten fraction of their budget. But look at the physical business on the other end of that transaction. You are looking at a 20,000 square foot commercial property, fully air-conditioned and packed wall-to-wall with millions of dollars in heavy equipment. Where does that money actually go? And how does a massive, capital-intensive facility manage to survive on nothing but a pile of forgotten $10 bills? How does this business actually make money? When we talk about the modern budget gym, we are not talking about a specialized boutique fitness studio. We are not looking at a high-intensity interval training class, a yoga retreat, or a heavy-lifting warehouse where members pay $200 a month for personalized coaching. We are looking at the high-volume, low-price model. The industry calls this HVLP. You know them as brands like Planet Fitness or Crunch. These are massive, cavernous spaces, often taking over abandoned grocery stores or big-box retail shelves in suburban strip malls. The customer here is the everyday end consumer. There are no health insurers or complex third-party payers padding the revenue. It is just an individual swiping a credit card. On paper, the visible product is incredibly straightforward. The business sells access. They are renting you the right to walk through their doors and use hundreds of treadmills, ellipticals, and weight machines. You are paying for temporary access to heavy, expensive equipment that you do not have the money to buy or the space to store in your own home. But that is only the physical transaction. To understand how the model actually scales, you have to look at the psychological product. These gyms are not really selling fitness. They are selling the intention to be fit. When a customer signs up for a $10 membership, they are buying the feeling of participating in a healthy lifestyle. They are buying the comfort of knowing the gym is there whenever they finally decide to get in shape. The business knows that selling access to steel and rubber is necessary, but selling the affordable, guilt-free fantasy of future exercise is what actually builds the empire. If you look at the pricing board at the front desk of a budget gym, the revenue stack seems upside down. The lowest price point is always written in the largest font. But to understand the economics, we have to rank these revenue streams not by how famous they are, but by how much they actually drive the business model. The real gross profit generator of this business is not the $10 tier. The core revenue engine is the premium membership. Typically priced around $24.99 a month, this tier is where the true margin lives. What the customer is paying for here is flexibility and exclusivity. They get the ability to use any location in a nationwide franchise network and, crucially, the right to bring a guest for free every single time they work out. For the gym, allowing a guest costs absolutely nothing in direct variable expenses, but it creates immense perceived value for the buyer. Even better, that free guest acts as free lead generation for future memberships. Today, this premium tier often accounts for more than half of a budget gym's total membership base, making it the unquestioned anchor of the financial model. So why do these operators advertise the $10 tier so aggressively? Because it is the ultimate volume driver. The basic membership operates on a very specific psychological mechanism. It is priced intentionally to be a forgotten subscription. $10 a month is low enough that it falls below the threshold of financial pain for most consumers. When a member stops going, they do not immediately rush to cancel. Instead, psychological friction takes over. There is the heavy guilt of admitting defeat on their personal fitness goals, combined with the mild, calculated inconvenience of having to show up in person to cancel the contract. This emotional and logistical friction turns that $10 tier into an incredibly sticky recurring revenue stream. It functions as a massive funnel that pulls in thousands of people, setting the stage for eventual upgrades. But monthly subscriptions are only part of the story. Woven quietly into these contracts are highly profitable cash injections in the form of fee income. First, there are joining fees, which fluctuate based on marketing promotions but serve to immediately offset the initial cost of acquiring that customer. More importantly, there are annual maintenance fees, usually hitting a member's credit card once a year to the tune of $40 or $50. This fee is commonly framed as money used to upgrade or repair equipment. In reality, it is a high-margin revenue spike that drops almost entirely to the gym's bottom line. Gyms often structure this fee to hit a month or two after the massive New Year enrollment wave, capturing a windfall of cash from members who have already stopped showing up. When multiplied by 10,000 members at a single location, an annual fee creates a predictable influx of hundreds of thousands of dollars that requires zero additional physical product to fulfill. Finally, there is the attach revenue. Once the cheap membership drives foot traffic into the building, the operator captures additional margin through add-ons. This includes the retail coolers at the front desk selling water, energy drinks, and branded merchandise at a high markup. But the real driver of attach revenue sits in the back of the building. Tanning beds, automated massage chairs, and red light therapy booths. These recovery services cost the gym mere pennies in electricity to operate on a per-use basis. Yet, they act as the ultimate incentive to convince a $10 basic member to upgrade to the $25 premium tier. The operator uses a cheap entry price to acquire the traffic, and then heavily monetizes that traffic through high-margin amenities and recurring fees. Now that we see where the money comes from, we have to look at where it goes. Because before a single dollar of profit can be claimed, this business has to feed a massive, relentless machine of expenses. A budget gym is one of the most capital-intensive retail operations in the country. Let's start with the fixed costs, the money that leaves the bank account every single month, whether 10,000 people show up to work out or absolutely nobody does. First, there is the real estate. You cannot run a high-volume, low-priced gym in a small storefront. These operators require massive commercial footprints, typically starting at 20,000 square feet and often pushing past 30 or 40,000. Renting a space that size in a prime suburban retail center means signing a multi-year commercial lease that costs tens of thousands of dollars every single month. But an empty building is just the beginning. The floor has to be filled with equipment. Hundreds of commercial-grade treadmills, ellipticals, stair climbers, and weight machines. The upfront cost to outfit a facility of this size easily clears $1 to $2 million. Most gym operators do not pay cash for this. They use commercial equipment financing or leasing agreements. This creates a brutal semi-fixed cost, the monthly debt service. The gym is contractually obligated to make heavy payments on those machines over 3 to 5 years. And just as the debt is finally paid off, corporate brand standards usually dictate that the equipment must be replaced with newer models. It is a never-ending cycle of capital expenditure. On top of the rent and the debt, there are franchise royalties. If the gym is part of a major national brand, a percentage of top-line revenue is swept right out of the account and sent to corporate. Add in the fixed salaries of the management team and the expensive commercial liability insurance required to cover thousands of people lifting heavy metal, and the fixed cost stack is staggering. Then we move to the direct variable costs. These are the expenses tied to daily operations. The utility bills for a massive facility are immense, particularly the air conditioning required to keep a 30,000 square foot warehouse cool. Then there is the hourly labor. Budget gyms run incredibly lean, often staffing the front desk and cleaning crew with just a handful of hourly workers at a time to keep overhead as low as possible. There is also a hidden variable cost that quietly eats into the cash flow: merchant processing fees. Remember that core volume driver, the $10 membership? Every time the gym charges a credit card, The payment network takes a percentage plus a flat transaction fee. When your primary product is a microtransaction, those merchant fees take a surprisingly large bite out of the gross revenue. Finally, we reach the most critical expense in the entire model: customer acquisition cost, or CAC. A gym does not magically acquire 10,000 members. They have to buy them. This requires a massive, sustained marketing budget spent on local television commercials, digital ads, and direct mail campaigns. The gym might have to spend $40 or $50 in marketing to convince just one person to sign up for a $10 membership. Because they are spending $50 to acquire a customer who only pays $10 a month, the gym actively loses money on that member on day one. Cash leaves the business long before the customer ever pays it back. This creates a deep working capital hole. The operator has to float the upfront marketing costs, pay the massive commercial rent, and service the heavy equipment debt, all while waiting months for those $10 recurring charges to slowly catch up. How does a business with such colossal fixed costs actually survive? If an operator is paying tens of thousands of dollars in commercial rent and servicing $1 million equipment loan, they need a massive amount of revenue just to break even. But a physical building has a fatal flaw: a bottleneck. A 30,000 square foot gym can realistically only hold about 300 people at any given time before it becomes uncomfortably crowded, unsafe, or violates fire codes. If your maximum capacity is 300 people and your core product costs $10 a month, traditional retail math dictates that you are going to go bankrupt. 300 people paying $10 is barely $3,000. That does not even cover the electric bill. This is where the true profit engine of the high-volume, low-price model takes over. The engine relies on a metric called capacity utilization, combined with a mechanism known as oversubscription. To pay off that mountain of fixed debt, an operator cannot just sell 300 memberships. They have to sell 6,000, 8,000, or even 10,000 memberships to a single physical location. Airlines overbook flights by a few percentage points, assuming a couple of passengers will miss their connection. A budget gym overbooks its capacity by over 3,000%. They are selling a physical space to 10,000 people that can only hold a few hundred. If even 5% of their total customer base decided to show up at the exact same time on a Tuesday evening, the entire business model would physically collapse. There would be no parking spaces, no available lockers, and physical fights over treadmills. So, how do they prevent this collapse? By completely rewriting traditional unit economics. In almost any other business, an active, engaged customer is a good thing. In the budget gym model, an active customer is a financial liability. To understand the mechanism, we have to look at the unit economics of two distinct buyers: the active member and the ghost member. First, the active member. This person pays their $10 and shows up 5 days a week. They take up a parking space for 2 hours. They run the motors on the treadmills, wearing down the expensive belts. They use the hot water in the showers. They use the paper towels. And most importantly, they occupy physical space during peak hours, creating a crowded environment that turns away other paying customers. Because the monthly fee is so low, the active member actually costs the gym money to service. Then we have the ghost member. This person signed up on January 1st, went twice, and has not been back since. But that $10 automatic charge still hits their credit card every single month. They use no water, no electricity, and no parking space. They cause zero depreciation to the expensive equipment. The ghost member represents a gross margin of nearly 100%. The entire profit engine of a budget gym relies on acquiring and retaining as many Ghost members as humanly possible, effectively using them to subsidize the heavy fixed costs and the few people who actually use the building. A great operator does not just hope for Ghost members, they actively engineer the physical space to create them. If you walk into a traditional heavy lifting gym, you will see squat racks, heavy dumbbells, and Olympic lifting platforms. These pieces of equipment attract dedicated, hardcore lifters, the exact type of active member a budget gym wants to avoid. Hardcore lifters stay for hours, they intimidate beginners, and they take up too much floor space, so the budget gym completely removes them. They pull out the heavy free weights and replace them with endless rows of simple, unintimidating cardio equipment. They install alarms that go off if someone drops a weight too loudly or grunts. They offer free pizza nights or bagel mornings. Every single operational and architectural decision is designed to make the space highly appealing to the casual, aspirational buyer. This is the person most likely to sign up, feel good about their purchase, and then slowly stop coming. The operator is optimizing the physical layout not for the perfect workout, but to keep machine utilization as low as possible while pushing subscription revenue to its absolute maximum limit. Once an operator figures out how to engineer this massive base of Ghost members, the next logical step is to replicate the model. And in the budget gym business, scale does not just make the operation larger. It fundamentally changes the unit economics in favor of the house. The primary advantage of scale is fixed cost absorption. When a single independent gym needs to buy 100 treadmills, they pay wholesale prices. When a massive national franchise network buys 10,000 treadmills, they dictate the manufacturing terms. They negotiate heavy volume discounts, driving down the capital required to open a new location and lowering the monthly equipment debt. But the real power of scale is found in how it manipulates the customer acquisition cost. A standalone gym has to fight for local attention. They have to pay a premium to convince a local resident to take a chance on their specific building. A massive chain, however, benefits from inescapable brand recognition. Because their logos are everywhere and their national television commercials constantly broadcast that famous $10 price point, the local operator does not have to introduce the concept to the consumer. The national brand does the heavy lifting. This recognition acts as a gravitational pull, consistently driving down the cost to acquire a new member. The bigger the chain gets, the cheaper it becomes to replace the members who leave. And replacing members is the single greatest existential threat to this business. Because for all its brilliant financial engineering, this machine has a devastating failure mode. The entire structure collapses if the churn rate spirals out of control. Churn is the percentage of members who cancel their subscriptions every month. In the budget gym world, the operator knows a certain number of Ghost members will eventually wake up. A customer looks at their credit card statement, realizes they have not worked out in a year, and finally decides to overcome the psychological friction of canceling. As long as the gym can acquire new members cheaper and faster than the old ones cancel, the machine keeps humming. But if macroeconomic conditions change, or if a shiny new competitor opens up across the street, that math can violently flip. If the Ghost members start canceling at a faster rate than new signups are walking through the door, the operator is forced to crank up their marketing spend. They have to pour aggressive amounts of cash into advertising just to maintain their baseline revenue. If the customer acquisition cost inflates while the total membership count is shrinking, the recurring revenue stream breaks. The devastating reality of this business is that the fixed costs do not care if your members are leaving. The commercial landlord still expects their massive rent check on the first of the month. The lenders still demand their payments for the million-dollar equipment package. If the monthly subscription revenue dips below that heavy fixed cost threshold, The operator cannot simply downsize. They are trapped in a 30,000 square foot box filled with steel and rubber. The winners in this industry are the operators who master the razor-thin balance between acquisition and churn. They scale massive brands to keep marketing costs low, and they meticulously manage the physical environment to ensure the Ghost members stay perfectly asleep. When you look at a massive 30,000 square foot budget gym, it is easy to assume you are looking at a health and wellness company. But the economics tell a completely different story. The operator is not in the business of optimizing human performance, and they are certainly not making their margin on the people sweating inside the building. They are running a highly engineered subscription and real estate play. They lease a massive commercial footprint, load it with millions of dollars in debt-financed equipment, and then aggressively sell thousands of memberships that the physical space could never actually support. Ultimately, this business makes money when they successfully rent access to an aspirational lifestyle to people who rarely use the physical assets. That $10 monthly charge is not a fee for using a treadmill. It is the price of keeping a personal goal alive, priced just low enough to be forgotten and backed by just enough psychological friction to prevent a cancellation. The gym survives the crushing weight of its fixed costs not by building the best workout environment, but by mastering the quiet, invisible economics of the Ghost member.